You know, this whole year, people online, our friends, people here, even our family, it seems to have been a year of a lot of loss. There's been a lot of pain, a lot of struggles, a lot of stress. And people will ask the question whenever they see it going on, why does God allow bad things to happen to good people? In fact, that right there, that question in and of itself is an atheist reason not to believe, because they'll say, why does God allow bad things happen to good people? But first thing that we have to question, what is good? Jesus says there's no one good. No, not one. Only God is good. But whenever we look at it from a human perspective and we see somebody that, by our perspective, that is a good person, we feel like they're a good person, and they're going through their struggles, and life is hitting them hard. We could be going through it. Life could be hitting us hard. Be hitting us hard enough to take the wind right out of us, take the breath right away from us. And we wonder, and then we get loaded up by stress. And it affects us. It affects our health. It affects our well-being. It affects our mental. It affects our emotions. It affects how we deal with others. And it affects how we see ourselves. What I was saying earlier, it's real easy to forget that we are created in the image of the Most High, that we are made in His likeness. And it's real easy to forget that there is that kind of value that God places on us. And sometimes we want to do like what Art was talking about. We want to get mad and we want to yell at God. God's got big shoulders. He can pretty much take it. But we also see from time to time that bad people seem to be rewarded. They get away with hurting good people. They get away with doing things that are wrong, and they get rewarded for it. Folks, that goes all the way back to the dawn of man itself. Because in Genesis chapter 4, we've got the story about Cain and Abel. Abel herded livestock. Cain was a farmer. He grew. And God said that He wanted an offering. And Abel took the best of his flock and he sacrificed them for God. And Cain made a grain offering. God accepted Abel's offering and respected it. He didn't respect Cain's. And Cain got mad with God. Why do you disrespect me? He said, well, I'll get even. And he goes and he kills his brother. And then when God comes to him and He says, ask, where's your brother? And he says, who am I? My brother's keeper? God says, his blood cries out from the earth. God didn't have to let Cain kill his brother. But what God does next is even more astounding. Cain wasn't even repentant. When God told him that He was going to punish him, Cain gets mad. God told him He was going to send him away, and Cain said, well, the people will kill me. So what does God do? God said to him, therefore, whoever kills Cain, vengeance shall be taken against him sevenfold. God protected him. God put a mark on him and protected him. And here he is, the first murderer. And God protected him. He not only protected him, he blessed him. It was from Cain's line that we get musicians and artists. Wow. God rewarded evil. Or did he? Cain had to live with it. And he eventually had to pay for it. Because with sin, the payment is eventually going to be our lives. If you go further back in Genesis, and there is this wonderful story of Jacob's sons. Jacob has 12 sons. And one of them has dreams and visions, the youngest. And he tells his brothers of the dreams he has. And he tells his brothers how one day he's going to be over them. And they're looking down at him and saying, this little snot's going to do what? They thought he was arrogant. They took him out to kill him. They'd had enough of him. He was Daddy's favorite. One brother says, no, don't kill him. We'll sell him into slavery. He's a good kid. He's carted off to Egypt as a slave. In the house that he's a slave in, he eventually works his way up to be very trusted by the homeowner. But the story also tells us that he was a good-looking young man, and the owner's wife wanted him. And he wasn't having nothing to do with it because he wasn't going to defile his God. But he was thrown into prison because she lied about him. He's doing everything right. And everything wrong is being thrown at him. And while in prison, Pharaoh's two of his servants are thrown into prison, and he interprets dreams for them. And whenever they're let out, he says, remember me in front of Pharaoh. 2 years go by. He's still in prison. And they had forgot about him. And one day, Pharaoh's having dreams that he can't understand. And one of the servants remembers Joseph. Tells Pharaoh, there's a guy in prison. He can interpret dreams. Joseph eventually became the second highest man in Egypt. He interpreted the dreams. Saw that 7 years of plenty was coming and then 7 years of drought. And during that drought, he was reunited with his family. His father thought he was dead for years. He could have taken vengeance out on his brothers. But what he did is he chose to forgive. He chose reconciliation. He chose to be different. God promised him a double portion. Whenever his father lay dying, his father blessed his two sons. They received a double blessing, a double portion. In fact, you go all the way to Revelation chapter 7, whenever the tribes of Israel are listed in the 144,000, the tribe of Dan is omitted, but one of his sons, along with himself, are named. the double portion is remembered. But what does that mean for us? Because we've seen loss. We've seen hurt. We've lost loved ones over the year. Some of us are going through some real tough struggles right now. And we see bad rewarded and good punished. And we cry out to God, why? Why? Why do the good die young? And why do the bad continue to seem to get blessed? Isaiah 57, verse 1, it says, "The righteous perish, and no man takes it to heart. Merciful men are taken away, while no one considers that the righteous is taken away from evil." We've seen good people, God-fearing people, people that we thought, had many years ahead of them, pass away. And it hurts. But God is saying here, He's taking someone away because there is some type of calamity that He is saving them from. We don't know what it is. We don't know what it is that they were going to face that God says, no, I'm not going to let you go through that. What about the rest of us? What about the hurt that we feel? And then there's that old saying, whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. It's kind of like when I was a kid raking leaves. First time you go out to rake leaves and you're not used to doing it, what does it do to your hands? You get blisters and they bust and they hurt. But as you keep doing it, it builds up calluses. Skin grows stronger. And as the skin grows stronger and thicker in those places, the more you rake the leaves, the more the skin gets used to it. You don't get the blisters. You don't get the pain. You grow stronger. But guess what you've got to do? You've got to go through something first. You see, we like to say around here whenever we're getting ready for the prayer bucket, God's already answered the prayer. You may be right here, and God's answered it here, and you've got to get from point A to point B, but you've got to get there. God's already got it taken care of. You've got to get there. You've got to go through something. Whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Maybe God left you because He knows that you're strong enough to handle the calamity that they weren't. Another thing is, we don't go through struggles alone. You see, God allows us to face struggles. One, so we will have faith in Him, and that faith will grow and grow stronger. But also, there's going to come a time when somebody's going to come across our lives, and they're going to be going through it. And they're going to need somebody to help them go through it. And we'll be there. We'll be the help that they need. And we'll be the blessing that God has given them to answer their prayer. So does God really let bad things happen to good people? Not really. Not really. He allows us to go through trials and tribulations. Jesus promised those. But Satan has to ask permission before he can ever send an attack our way. Jesus told Peter that Satan had asked to sift him like wheat. And we know that is exactly what happened to Peter. And Peter had to go through it. Peter had to be broken. Peter had to be humbled. Because from the time that Jesus was arrested and Peter denied him to the time of Pentecost, what happened to Peter? After Jesus' ascension, the people in Jerusalem would take the sick and infirm, and they would lay them in the street, that if as much as his shadow would cast upon them, they'd be healed. Now, could the Peter before the crucifixion be that Peter? No, he couldn't. He had to go through something. He had to rely on his faith whenever Christ wasn't going to be there for him. Bad things happen to good people, and they're always going to. But when bad things happen to good people, when we are going through the struggles, that is the opportunity for us to build our faith. It is also, as we're going through those struggles, as we're going through those hard times, as we're going through those fights, it is the time that our faith is going to shine the brightest for those that are watching us. So whenever they say, why does God let bad things happen to good people? They can see faith in action. You want to stop the devil in his tracks? Let a faithful person stand up to everything that he can throw at him. And if they can come through it with their faith intact, not only has he just emptied his arsenal against them, but he's made them stronger in their faith before God. When we are weak, we're strong. When we are humbled, we stand the tallest. Whenever we are left with nothing but prayer and faith, we have finally got down to the real ammunition that God has given us. When we're broken, whenever everything seems to be taken away, that's whenever we're going to be able to see a mighty move of God through our faith. Jesus said, so let your light shine before men that they will see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. That's what happens when bad things happen to good people. Guess what? Bad things also happen to bad people. The catch-22 is they don't have nowhere to turn. All they can do is lash out. Bad for bad. Evil for evil. Which would you rather have? If you're facing a bad time, if you're facing the struggles, if you're facing the loss, if you're facing the question, God, why me? Which would you rather have? Would you rather have your faith? Would you rather have your humility, your prayers, your eternal hope? Or would you rather only be facing evil for evil, bad for bad, meanness for meanness? God's taken those away from calamity, that He's rewarded. Our reward comes later. Guess what? When we stand in heaven, those that He's taken, it will have only been the blink of an eye for them. They won't have known the difference in the years that we have known. And all the stress that we've been through, all the pain, all the fight, be gone, wiped away. God will wipe away every tear. If you're out there and you're facing it, and you're going through the struggles, and you don't know what tomorrow is going to bring you, have faith. And you can say, well, you don't know what I'm facing. I may not have a place to live tomorrow. Have faith. You don't understand. I may not be able to pay the electric bill and it's going to be cold tonight. Have faith. But you don't understand. You know, the average bird weighs about 4 to 6 ounces. And they eat about 3 times their body weight every day. And there are billions upon billions of birds in the world of all different sizes. That means that there has to be billions of tons of food for those birds. And they eat every day. God takes care of them. And if He can do it for something as simple as a bird, how much more are we worth? If you can't find solace in knowing that God will take care of you, do a checkup from the neck up. Because something's missing. And I bet it's faith. Folks, we're getting ready to close this evening. The altar is going to be open, and if you're not here, the altar is wherever's in front of you that you can kneel down and pray. But you take your hurts and you take your pains and you put them at the altar. And once you set them there and you give them to God, you don't pick them back up. You believe that He's going to take them, and He will. And you hold on to your faith. Because your faith is the greatest thing that you can have whenever everything else has been taken away.